Welcome to week 2 of organizational behavior. This is the spring quarter of 2014. And in week 2, we're going to examine topics related to decision making and how people make decisions within an organization. And also then we'll start talking about motivation. We're going to look at chapters 3 and 4 on decision making and motivation. So I'm just going to use this video time to kind of review the expectations for this week. You are going to have a discussion question that you're going to participate in the discussion all week. Remember, you want to give a full response to the discussion question yourself and make sure you're answering each section of the discussion question. So you're going to complete one of the sample exercises that's in the text in chapter 3, and then you're going to discuss how you compare to some of the norms in the text and how your decision-making style relates to roles that you've had in the past. And then you're also going to reply to at least 2 of your classmates' posts. So we want to have a good discussion about decision making and how we conduct decision making as part of a group. You're going to read chapter 3, and chapter 3 is the chapter that discusses the decision making styles, and it gives you a lot of specific information about decision making. Your assignment then for chapter 3, the first half of the assignment, is going to be on page 84, which is at the end of chapter 3, and it relates to Google. And so you're going to see an article here on page 84. Let me see if I can get there, page 84. You're going to see this article here about Google, and it's going to talk to you in plain language about how they make decisions at Google and what kind of processes they go through. So when you answer these 2 questions at the end of the case, and it says describe the decision making at Google, then it says in general, how does decision making in small companies differ from decision making in large companies? Just like last week, I want you to answer those questions by using terminology and concepts that were discussed in the chapter. So if we go over a few more pages from that article to the very end of the chapter, and here we're going to see key summary or chapter summary and key terms. This is on page 88, and it continues on page 89. And I want you to use every term from this chapter summary and key terms that applies based on what you read about Google. Use everything that applies in this area in your response. So when you answer your response to the questions about Google, I'm looking for you to use these terms, whichever ones apply. Bounded rationality, rational economic model, satisficing, and then on to the next page. Any of these that apply to what you read at Google: divergent thinking, non-programmed decisions, image theory, formal reasoning. Some of these are going to definitely apply to the article. So you should be able to use concepts that all of these concepts were described in the chapter and explained in the chapter. So based on the reading in the chapter that you read about these different theories, and then the article that you're going to read about Google, I want you to use these chapter summary and key terms to explain your answers to the 2 questions that are given after the Google article. Remember, if you don't use any of the key terms from the chapter, you're going to receive a low score on the homework. The idea of the assignments is that you're going to apply the concepts from the chapter to the article that you've read. And then also this chapter on decision making also relates to the discussion. Remember, the discussion question was about decision making. So when you complete this table in chapter 3 and see what your scores are, you'll be able to describe yourself also in the discussion using the chapter key terms. Okay, so then the next part of the assignment is chapter 4. You're going to read chapter 4, and that is where we start discussing motivation. And so when we get to the end of the motivation chapter, you're going to find the second half of the assignment. So here's that. It's an article regarding this company called Hiscox, and you're going to read about motivational issues at that firm. And then at the end of this short article, you're going to identify the intrinsic motivators, extrinsic motivators, and discuss why career growth is a powerful motivator at this firm and at other firms. So again, when you answer those questions, I'm wanting you to go to the Chapter 4 summary and key terms. These are the various terms that were discussed in the chapter. So I want you to relate as many of these as relate to the article that you read on Hiscox. This class throughout, you're going to be expected to use the chapter summary and key terms and be able to apply the terms you read about in the chapter to the article that you're discussing for your homework and as it applies to your discussion each week as well. So those are the two items that are going to be due for this week. And again, the chapter 3 and 4 homework are two halves to one assignment. There's no need to put those in separate files. You can answer the questions for chapter 3 and chapter 4 in one Word document file together and then make just one submission into Blackboard for your assignment. Remember also to make sure that you're participating fully in the discussion. And we've got some additional learning resources this week, and a lot of these are good to do on your iPad as you're killing time in line or waiting, or you have some free time and you have your iPad with you. That'll be a good time to work on things like these practice quizzes or visit some of the websites and the additional learning resources. I especially want to point out those practice quizzes because in week 4 we will have our first quiz in this class, and the practice quizzes over each chapter will help you to prepare for that. Later in the class, in week 8, remember we're going to have that movie analysis paper, and so I suggested that you start now locating one of the films that's on the list, maybe even viewing it early so that you can start applying some of the things we've already learned. Last week we learned about organizational design, job design, and this week, in week 2, we're looking at motivation and decision making. Some of these key terms will apply to the movie that you're going to watch. So if you want to get started on the movie early, you can certainly do that and start applying key terms and chapter summaries to the movie. But you do have time on that. That's not till chapter or week 8. But just keep that in mind as well. A couple people have already asked if they can use a movie that's not on that list. I don't recommend that because the movies on the list are already viewed, and I know for a fact that many of the concepts in the textbook apply to it. If you have another movie, it needs to be a movie that is about an organization, where an organization, a business, is the central figure in the film. And so some of the films that people are suggesting isn't really about an organization, and so that's going to cause a problem for you. So I highly suggest that you use one of the films from my list because I know it applies, and I know that there's plenty of material in the textbook that'll apply to it. So that's my suggestion for you as far as the movie that's coming up, movie analysis paper that's coming up in week 8. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I can always answer your emails the same day, and my phone number and office hours are posted in the instructor area. So have a great week, and I will talk to you again soon.